Today, we are continuing one of our most highly requested series. We are going to be ranking and categorizing every single Storm Products bowling ball that is on the market today. This includes Storm, this includes Roto Grip, and this includes 900 Global. All three brands are going to be covered in this video, so stay tuned and we'll be able to make an arsenal for you with these brands. Quick reminder, if you haven't, make sure to subscribe, helps us out a ton. And then also go check out our chamois. We have ZVL Bowling chamois for bowling balls. Really helps get the oil off of your ball. These are actually very cheap chamois and very well made. They're only about $25 after shipping. One of the cheaper ones you can find on the market, but let's get right into the video. So if you're new here on the channel, we have 6 categories that we put bowling balls into. We have strong smooth, strong sharp, medium smooth, medium sharp, weak smooth, and weak sharp. All of these categories showcase what a bowling ball does, what its ball reaction is, and how early the bowling ball hooks. So we're going to be putting balls into all 6 categories and also be labeling them in their respective category to show what comes earlier and what hooks earlier than other balls in the system. So we're going to be kicking it off with our strong and smooth category. These are going to be the big asymmetrical solid bowling balls, the strongest and earliest hooking bowling balls on the market, best for when there's a ton of oil. And the number one hooking ball that Storm has to offer right now is the Ion Max. The Ion Max is the only asymmetrical solid strong bowling ball that Storm Products has to offer right now. Other ones in the past were the Harsh Reality Solid and the Gem, but those have now been discontinued. So the Ion Max is the only one remaining. This is arguably one of the best solid asymmetrical balls on the market today. Everybody has been using them on the PBA Tour as of late. They've won a couple titles already. They've been really good on the fresh, and a lot of amateurs have really liked them also. There was an 899 shot a couple of weeks ago with an Ion Max, and this ball really is showcasing that it is one of the best. Coming up next is going to be a Roto Grip bowling ball, another solid asymmetrical ball. However, this one is not strong by any means. This is the Roto Grip XL. The Roto Grip XL has a very strong cell core from anybody who remembers the Cell series from years past. In my opinion, the best series Roto Grip has ever created. Except this ball has a very, very weak cover stock. So this is a clear at least 1 to 1.5 steps below the Ion Max. This one's going to hook a bit later and be a bit sharper down lane compared to the Ion Max. So do they fit in the same category in strong smooth? Yes. However, this really showcases that you can have 2 different sides of the spectrum for bowling balls like this. So you could have an Ion Max and an XL in the same spot in the bag or in different spots also. Next up, we are moving to the strong and sharp category. And these are generally bowling balls that still want to pick up earlier, but be much sharper down lane. These are going to be best for playing left. These are going to be best early on a house shot. These are going to be best on those longer patterns when your first ball, being an Ion Max or an XL, start hooking too early and leaving too many corner pins. So kicking us off is going to be 900 Global with the earliest hooking strong and sharp bowling ball in their catalog, which is the Harsh Reality Pearl. This is a Pearl version of that solid Harsh Reality, which was a remake of the original Reality. However, this ball hooked super, super early. This was very not much like the original Reality. This one was early. This one was slow down lane. And the Pearl version was a little bit sharper, but still very, very slow in what we call chuggy down lane or very tumbly. Didn't like playing super far left, really like tighter angles. But this one is super early. This one is a very, very strong Pearl ball. In my opinion, one of the strongest, if not the strongest Pearl balls on the market today. Next, we're going with one of the best balls on the market right now, and that is the 900 Global Origin. The Origin is an asymmetrical hybrid bowling ball. However, it is very interesting. The cover isn't supposed to be that strong, and the core isn't insanely strong either, but wow, does this ball hook. This thing hooks a little bit later than the Harsh Reality Pearl, but definitely earlier than everything else we're going to mention on the list. This is definitely the unicorn of the strong and sharp category, where it does some very unique things that, in my opinion, no other ball on the market really does. A lot of PBA players adore this ball. Ryan Barnes is absolutely in love with this Origin, throws it all over the place, and a lot of other pros have really followed suit. So really watch out for this Origin. This thing's really special in my opinion, but this thing is the number 2 hooking ball on the strong and sharp list. Next one up is the Physics Blackout from Storm. This has that original physics core, one of the stronger cores on the market, with a pretty strong pearl cover stock, and it also comes sanded. Now, this one's a little bit interesting. I am comparing the Physics Blackout if it had the same cover stock as everything else on the strong and sharp category. So the Physics Blackout is the only ball on this list that doesn't come at 1500 grit power edge finish. So I'm assuming that this one's going to be shiny because a dull ball is always going to hook earlier. The Physics Blackout would be number one on this list. However, at the same finish as everything else, in my opinion, it's right below the Origin, being a little bit later and a little bit sharper down lane. This one's a highly versatile ball. It can do a lot of things. That's why it comes dull, because it can act like a strong and smooth ball when dull. But when shiny, it's definitely in the middle of the strong and sharp category. Next is the new house shot bowling ball from Storm, and that is the Equinox. The Equinox is a super early hooking asymmetrical pearl ball. However, not as early as the other ones that we mentioned on the list. It is pretty close to a Physics Blackout. I would say a little smoother down lane, but a little bit later. Now remember, we're determining how early the ball hooks, not on its down lane reaction. So the Equinox is going to be a little bit later than the Physics Blackout, but it's going to be earlier than everything else on the list. This one seems to be really good specifically for league patterns, as Storm has marketed. They've done a really good job on that front. So this ball definitely could be a really good league option for you if you just bowl leagues and need that strong and sharp ball. Next up, we're going to Roto Grip Bowling, and we're starting with the Attention Star S2. The Attention Star S2 is the new sequel of one of the greatest bowling balls that Roto has come out with in a couple years. That was the original Attention Star. And the S2 is the same exact thing, just hybrid, just a weak hybrid cover on it. Fairly strong attention core, not as strong as some other ones on the list, but that's why it's so low, because it actually pushes pretty far down lane, but is pretty forward once it reads the end of the pattern. So it doesn't like to play super, super deep. It's really, in my opinion, a slight step up from like a phase 2. This is a slightly earlier and slightly, honestly, similar reaction to the phase 2 down lane. So the S2 is very interesting. Definitely one of the weakest bowling balls on the strong and sharp list. And with that, we're going to jump to the next one, which is the OG Attention Star. It is just a pearl version of the S2, as we mentioned, so very weak E-Trax pearl cover stock on it. Moderately strong attention core. This is one of the best league shot balls of the last year. I know the Equinox was marketed as one, but the Attention Star truly has been that league bowling ball, that house shot bowling ball. It is one of the most beloved balls of all time from Storm. I shouldn't say of all time, of the last couple of years from the Storm lineup. I always highly recommend this one for a strong and sharp ball. However, it is one of the weakest bowling balls in the strong and sharp category from all the brands. Something big to remember. And with that, we are done with the strong and sharp category. We're going to be moving on to the medium and smooth bowling balls. So these are generally your benchmark versatile bowling balls. They are always in the middle of your bag in terms of reaction, not as early as the strong smooth, not as sharp as the strong sharp, but not as weak as our weak smooth. This is just middle of the bag. These are usually the most used bowling balls and the most versatile ones in your bag. You'll always be seeing people throw these at any event, at any tournament, at any league. This is going to be the most used ball that you see. And we're going to start off with the earliest hooking bowling ball from Storm on this portion of the list, and that is the Sublime Focus from 900 Global. This is a sequel to the original Sublime, which was a really good league shot ball, super early hooking because the core is massive on this thing. And the Sublime Focus is just that, but with a solid cover stock. It is honestly very close to the phase 2, which we're going to mention in just a minute, but this one's going to be just a little bit earlier and honestly a little bit sharper. It reminds me of an original Storm Axiom where it hooks early, but is also kind of sharp down lane. Kind of a weird situation that you don't see very often, but the Sublime Focus is the earliest hooking ball on the list. And next up, we are going to the GOAT from Storm Bowling. That is the Phase 2. This is a medium and smooth bowling ball right in the middle of the medium and smooth category. This ball is many years old. It has won numerous PBA titles. Every pro seems to have one in their bag. Every amateur for Storm seems to have one in their bag. I've had one in my bag for like 6 years because it is just that good. This ball is a little bit weaker than the Sublime Focus, a little smoother also, which is why it's so versatile, because you can play this thing from first arrow, you can play it from seventh arrow. It kind of works all over the place. So the Phase 2 is in the middle of our medium and smooth category. Coming up next is a new ball from Roto Grip, and that is the Rockstar. This was supposed to be a recreation of the Idol and a replacement for it because the Idol was just recently discontinued. However, this ball is definitely a weaker version of the Phase 2. It's similar down lane motion, maybe a little bit sharper, not a crazy amount sharper, but then it's definitely a weaker version of that Phase 2. So does it pair well with a Phase 2? In my opinion, yes. I think there's a big enough difference between the two where this thing can actually be a really good ball for a rev dominant bowler to fit in the middle of your bag. So if you're looking in that medium and smooth category, there are a ton of good options from Storm right now. And now the weakest bowling ball in our medium and smooth category is the Summit Ascent. The Summit Ascent has that massive Summit core, insanely weak cover stock on it. It was an R2S cover stock, which is the same as the IQ Tour. So this ball is actually very, very weak. It's down lane a long ways, longer than everything else that we've mentioned. So this is actually a good step down from a Phase 2 if you truly, truly need that. The Rockstar is a little bit closer, kind of shoots the gap between the Phase 2 and the Summit Ascent. But this Summit Ascent is super, super weak. If your lanes hook and you need something for League, this is usually a really good option. And you can kind of find this ball for a little bit cheaper. I'm a little worried it's going to get discontinued soon. I believe it's going to be on the chopping block pretty quick. So make sure to grab one before they're gone for good. And that covers all of our medium and smooth bowling balls. There's a nice handful there. In my opinion, all of those are absolutely incredible in so many different ways. All of those bowling balls have great uses, have been used all over the place. I really like all of them that we mentioned. But let's go on to the medium and sharp category. These are going to be the balls you go to when your medium smooth balls end up hooking a little too early. You're leaving flat 10s, you're leaving flat 7s. You're going through the face because the ball hooks too early. This is going to be the one you take a mini step left with. We'll get further down lane and be a little bit sharper. And the first one we have on the list is the Pepto-Bismol ball, and that is the Optimum Idol Pearl. So the original Optimum Idol is gone, but the Pearl version's still here. And this has that insanely big Idol with AI core tech core in it. The thing wants to hook early. However, the cover stock really pushes it down lane a little bit. Now, like I mentioned, it's the earliest hooking one on the list. This one reminds me of a baby harsh reality Pearl, where it wants to hook pretty early, almost as early as some of the solid balls that we mentioned in the medium smooth category, except it's a little bit sharper down lane. This thing's really versatile for a lot of people. I've never personally thrown one. A lot of people really like it though. It doesn't do as good from super deep left, but it's really good from that second, third, fourth arrow zone because it is pretty smooth off the end of the pattern, but not too smooth to leave a lot of corner pins. Now, these next two are going to be really, really tough. We're going to cover both of them in one. We're going to start, though, with the one that I think is a little bit earlier, but is also smoother down lane, and that is the Zen 25. The 900 Global Zen 25 is a 2025 release, hence the name, and it is pretty much a remake of the OG Zen. It does have AI core tech in it, which makes it want to hook a little earlier. However, the cover stock's a little bit weaker, so it kind of middles out into being what a Zen was, and I own one. I really think this is the closest ball we've gotten to a Zen since the OG Zen. It is a little bit later than the Optimum Idol Pearl, not by a crazy amount, but just by a little bit. And then it is going to be stronger and earlier than the other balls we mentioned, except for the next one that we go into. I'll talk about that in just a second. This Zen 25, in my opinion, is the best one on this medium and sharp list from Storm Bowling. If I had to pick one and recommend one to others, I always pick the Zen 25. I think this one just rolls better than the other ones on the list. Now, going down the list to the one that I don't usually recommend very much is the Phase AI. This is a Pearl version of the Phase 2. It just did not hit very well. It is about the same ball motion and hooks at about the same spot as a Zen 25, maybe a little bit later. However, this one is very, very quick down lane. When it does see friction, it wants to just go left, which is weird. It's not the most versatile and usable piece. A lot of people tried drilling them and didn't really like them. Me also. I really liked it for about 2 weeks, and then the ball just wasn't really that great for me anymore. It wasn't doing what it was supposed to. So the Phase AI comes right after the Zen 25. I don't usually recommend the AI right now. If you love yours, that's awesome. Let me know down in the comments if you are a Phase AI lover. But in my opinion, the Zen 25 is close enough and nearly identical in a lot of ways, but it is just more versatile and a little better. Coming on to the final medium and sharp bowling ball. This is the weakest and the sharpest by a landslide in this category. In my opinion, it hovers the line between medium sharp and weak and sharp, and that is the Road Warrior. The Storm Road Warrior is trying to be a remake of the High Road Pearl, except it's a little bit stronger and a little more usable, kind of like what the High Road Pearl was when it originally released. And this ball is incredible. This ball has been used by a lot of pros, by a lot of amateurs. It is that weaker bowling ball that you can throw on the burn, and it will hook. It's going to hook no matter what. This is kind of the point where Storm Shiny Balls started getting better. There was a point where Storm Shiny Balls weren't that great. This is the point where they started getting a lot better. And this Road Warrior is, if you like the High Road Pearl, this is basically a High Road Pearl remake, just a little bit sharper and a little bit earlier down lane. So this Road Warrior comes in on the bottom of our medium and sharp category. Next, we're moving on to the most niche portion of this video, and that is the weak and smooth category. The weak and smooth category is generally super weak symmetrical bowling balls that are very smooth and generally solids. Generally solid bowling balls, very smooth down lane. They don't have as many uses as a lot of others on the list unless you're rev dominant. If you're rev dominant, you're gonna love some of these bowling balls. Or if you bowl on surfaces that have a lot of friction, that's when these are really going to excel. Now, going into the first one, this is the most niche bowling ball on the market today, and that is the Storm Level. The Storm Level is a reactive bowling ball that acts like urethane. Originally, everybody was hoping that it was a better urethane than the IQ78 so that the pros could use it. Unfortunately, it really isn't. It doesn't hook enough to be like a urethane. So really, it's just an early hooking IQ tour, an early and smoother IQ tour. It does have its uses. I think it'll be really good at nationals at the USBC Open Championships this year. However, in a lot of regular play, it's just not that great. Moving on to what Storm wanted to be the new benchmark bowling ball of the ages, and that is the Ion Pro. The Ion Pro was supposed to be a mix between the Phase 2 and the IQ Tour, and they did end up succeeding. However, this ball hooks a little bit less. It's a little closer to an IQ Tour than a Phase 2. It is a very good bowling ball at the end of the day, a really good league bowling ball, actually. And I think it'll be used at nationals a lot also, similar to the Storm Level. However, this one is a hybrid and asymmetrical bowling ball that is very mild asymmetrical. That's why it's so weak on the list, but it is the second earliest hooking bowling ball on our weak and smooth list. Now, a lot of you probably think the IQ Tour goes next. It does not. I am actually putting the Hustle X-Ray on this portion of it. The Hustle X-Ray is the new solid version of the Hustle lineup, and in my opinion, it hooks earlier than the IQ Tour. It is 8 times smoother down lane than the IQ Tour, but it does hook a little bit earlier. It does have a very weak Hustle core, very weak solid cover stock on it. Doesn't really like a lot of angle unless you're Andrew Anderson at the US Open, but really it's just a solid hustle. We've seen a lot of these in the past. We've seen the Hustle PBR. The Hustle USA was pretty close. I know that one was a hybrid, but fairly close. We've seen balls in this category, and this X-Ray is the new one that can be used on a lot of short patterns. It can be used on a lot of house shots with a little bit of polish. Jumping up next is the next Storm GOAT. That is the IQ Tour. The IQ Tour has been around for a long time, and it is that super smooth, predictable ball motion that everybody knows and loves, especially tournament bowlers. And it does hook later than a Hustle X-Ray. It has aged a lot. It's been out for a very long time, and as the ages go on, it gets weaker and weaker and weaker. Originally, this was more of a medium smooth ball. However, in today's age, with how much oil is put on a lane, it's more of a weak bowling ball. So it's pretty weak. It's a little more sharp down lane than you would really expect. It's a very predictable ball motion, though. If you've never thrown an IQ Tour, I do recommend it. It is a fantastic bowling ball that a lot of people know and love. It is that core. It is one of the best, if not the best, weak and smooth bowling balls on the market, but this is really where it fits in terms of how early it hooks. Now, usually I wouldn't include this final one on the list because it is an entry-level bowling ball. However, this one's a little more than entry-level, and a few people are really picking up on it. That is a Tropical Surge Solid. The Tropical Surge series is that entry-level ball for someone who's new into bowling. Generally doesn't really flare, generally doesn't really hook. However, this solid one weirdly hooks a lot. I don't know why. The cover stock is supposed to be super weak. The core is super weak. However, a lot of people really like it, especially on shorter patterns and on weaker house shots, where there's a little less volume. So might try it out. If you need a ball that can stay on the right side of the head pin, this might be a really good weak smooth option for you. It's eons weaker than the IQ Tour and everything else we mentioned, hence why it's the bottom of the list, but it might be a good choice for you. And finally, we are on the weak and sharp options. These are the bowling balls you want to use when the lanes are completely torched. If you're on wood lanes, if you're on synthetics and it's late in the day, these are going to be the bowling balls that are going to get you out of trouble. They're not going to hook too early compared to everything else we have on the list. But let's start with the first one that I am not a big fan of. However, it does belong in the weak and sharp category because of how small the core is. That is the Lightning Blackout. The Lightning Blackout was a highly overpriced bowling ball that is super, super weak. It's basically a Hustle core with a strong pearl cover stock on it. So it's just a Hustle M&M on steroids is how I always see it. It hooks a little bit more, is a little bit earlier, a little bit smoother, but it is a good option for that weak and sharp category if you need something to fit here, especially for league, but you don't want a hustle because that's going to be most of the other stuff on the list are hustles. So if you want something here that isn't a hustle, this is going to be your best call. Next up, this one I'm kind of surprised is still being made by Storm, and that is the original High Road. So the original High Road Pearl was discontinued last year. The original High Road has not been. This ball's been around for, I swear, 45 years or so. This thing never goes away, but it is a hybrid, very weak bowling ball, very, very niche. It's going to get a little further down lane than the Lightning Blackout, but be smoother, in my opinion, which is odd. It's a very weak but very smooth bowling ball. If you haven't thrown a High Road, I tried throwing one at some point. High Road Pearl, Road Warrior, something like that. It's one of those reactions in bowling that is that special, unique reaction that you don't get from other brands. So this is where the High Road fits on this list. Next one up, we are on the Hustle Parade. We have the Hustle RIP, the remake of the Hustle Inc. This is a shiny, solid Hustle, so that's why it doesn't fit on the weak and smooth because it is shiny. It comes polished. Kind of interesting. Very, very good ball reaction. The Hustle Inc. actually has a PBA title under its belt, and the Hustle Rip has been used by a lot of people in a lot of really good situations. I think Chris Vi really likes it this year on the PBA tour so far. I thought I saw him throwing it a handful of times. It is a very weak ball. Again, it is a hustle at the end of the day, but it does hook a little bit later than those other true reactive bowling balls that we mentioned. It is one of the earlier hooking hustles. In my opinion, it is the best hustle on the market right now. So if you want to get one of the Roto Grip hustles, I'd recommend trying the Rip first. Now, I said I wouldn't include discontinued bowling balls, but at the time of recording, this ball just got discontinued, so I need to include it. It is the Storm IQ Tour Ruby. The IQ Tour Ruby is a pearl version of the OG IQ Tour. Some other ones in the past have been the IQ Emerald, the IQ Gold Pearl, and then the IQ Tour 30, which was a brown ball. So this is one of the best weak and sharp balls of the last 10-ish years, whichever iteration we're talking about. It is just a pearl version of the IQ Tour, very predictable, very understandable. You know what it's going to do at all times. It's a very good get out of jail free card, and it does hook a little bit later than the Hustle Rip. They're honestly pretty close ball reactions because the IQ Tour core is so weak. However, I think they're different enough that the IQ Tour Ruby falls right below the Hustle Rip. And we're going to include the last two balls close together on this list. We have first the Hustle BRY. This is a hybrid hustle. Nothing too crazy about this one. It hooks later than the IQ Tour Ruby. It's a hybrid, so it's going to be a little bit smoother, a little bit earlier than the Pearl version, the Hustle M&M, which is going to go right after this ball. That is just a Pearl version. So you have the Hustle BRY into the Hustle M&M. Two very close reactions. Don't get both, get one or the other. They're all going to hook later than anything else in Storm's catalog and try to be sharp down lane. However, the cores are so weak, they might not be the sharpest bowling balls ever made. And that covers our 6 main categories. I want to give a little bit of a glimpse into the final 7th secret category. Not really that secret. And it is the urethane bowling balls. Now, we did an article on Motive. They only had one urethane bowling ball, kind of, but it was discontinued at the time of recording. That's the Tank Rampage Pearl. But now for Storm, we have 2 urethanes that they have in production right now. The earliest hooking one and the best one is going to be the Pitch Black. The Pitch Black is one that has been made for many, many years. It is Storm's tried and true urethane. It is slightly worse than the Purple Hammers, unfortunately, but it is still fantastic, has won a ton of PBA titles. It is going to be the earliest and the most dynamic urethane on the market for Storm bowling. The second one up is going to be the much worse one. That is the IQ Tour 78U. The IQ 78U is just a harder version of the pitch black cover stock, but it has an IQ core in it, trying to give it a little more motion. It doesn't really have that. It hooks later than the pitch black. It's smoother than the pitch black, so it's harder to use. If you're extremely rev dominant, the IQ 78 will be a better choice for you. For the rest of the population, go with a pitch black. And that will do it for Storm Bowling. We had 29 bowling balls on this list, all ranked and all categorized. Now, a little bit of a check on this. This is my opinion, what I've seen from these bowling balls on the numbers, on reviews, talking to others, seeing other staffers, what they say. Now, that's what I am seeing about these. You might be seeing them differently. Let me know down below what you think, what the differences you would make to this chart would be. This is a community creation, by the way. So any comments you guys make about a lot of these bowling balls, like, man, Zach, you are very wrong on this one, let me know and I'll make sure to fix it in the future if enough people say that that's true. So this is a community thing. This is what I've seen so far. So I hope you guys use this chart. I hope you enjoy. I'll be making these charts every couple of months when new bowling balls come out. We might have an easier way to do it from like a Google Drive or something in the future. We will end up seeing, but this is what we're seeing right now for February 2025 for Storm products. I hope you guys enjoyed. Make sure to drop a subscription if you haven't. We have a motive guide already out there. We have a Brunswick guide coming very soon. So make sure to tune in. Make sure to watch all of those. Helps me out a ton. And then make sure you guys are educated when buying your next bowling ball. Otherwise, thank you for watching.